And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB.
Jimmy, Coach, I think everybody wants to be famous. I think that's what it is. Oh, by the way, we got to do a cameo. We got to do a cameo video after this, Jimmy. I forgot to tell you that.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right.
I don't want to be
big interview.
I just want to do a show.
Big interview. CM Punk came out, had a lot to say. Spoke about AEW, Jack Perry, Tony Khan. I'm sure everybody's seen that interview, or at least I hope you did, because if you didn't, it's definitely a must listen. Jimmy, I'd almost say they did as good a job as you and I did. I'm not going to put them over. You and I, a little better interviewers, but they did a pretty good job. What's your thoughts about CM Punk? So I'll just say this. I've never been a CM Punk fan. I'm a Phil Brooks hater, always have been. But I will tell you, I came out of the interview thinking a little bit different about Phil Brooks the other day. What do you guys thought about that interview?
Well, as usual, you know me. I haven't seen the interview. I've only read snippets of it. We talked about it earlier in the weekend, and, I agree with you that he took Tony Khan's money, and maybe, he shouldn't be saying too much. But you know something, though? There's one thing that's for sure. Whether you agree with this or not, what can I do? CM Punk is a wrestler and loves pro wrestling and wants the best out of wherever he's at. If he doesn't feel that 100% is being given in his own mind as to what wrestling is, he's going to say something. That's the way he always was. It's the pipe bomb that made him famous in the first place. So far be it for CM Punk to keep his feelings to himself. As far as Tony Khan goes, I pretty much feel that what he said about Tony Khan is correct. He's a fanboy. He's not a boss. And I think you would agree with that, Mike. He's not a boss, not compared to the model that we watched growing up, known as Vince McMahon. It's not even close. He lets the guys run the locker room. And I said it at the time. If you're picking Jack Perry over CM Punk, you don't know crap about business. What are you doing? You brought the guy in and you let the lesser guys, and you really think that CM Punk should accept that the Young Bucks have that much clout? Fuck the Young Bucks. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, I would have been insulted too if I was CM Punk, and I know it's controversial between you and me, but all those years ago, I would have been insulted if I was CM Punk with what happened at WrestleMania. He was the hardest working guy. He had the belt for over a year. It's funny, Roman Reigns is now shouted. Roman Reigns had this current reign. It was Punk's reign that everybody talked about for years and years and years. So Punk is a guy who stands by his convictions, and you got to give that to him. At least he's consistent. Coach?
Well, I actually watched the entire interview, and
Mark. Anyways,
exactly.
Go ahead.
No, I thought it was excellent, and I'll tell you why it was excellent, because it did not feel in that interview like a lot of wrestler interviews. It didn't feel like he was trying to work us.
Right.
It sounded like he was just telling his opinion on how this goes. As you need to find your power.
Where is it? It's right over here. All right, Coach, go around. Coach is going to go around and hook it up.
There we go.
Unbelievable. Live or Memorex. I keep knocking out the power cord, Mike. So if I had suddenly disappeared, you would have been like, where the hell is he, Bruce? You screwed up.
There you go.
Where is he? Now the battle is running low. There you go, folks. Live TV.
What would you do without me?
You got to love it. So anyway, as we were saying, Mark, you were watching the interview.
Take two. No, so basically, look, he wasn't trying to work us. He wasn't running an angle. That was Phil Brooks talking. And I thought it was excellent. And you could tell, look, he didn't go out there and play hot take radio. He wasn't trying to savagely take Tony Khan down. What he was saying was, look, he's a nice guy. You can't be a nice guy and be the boss. He was 100% right. And, look, Punk is a disagreeable human being. He is. He would say that.
You think?
That's just what he is. But he's 100% right in that all of this started with Hangman Page. And that interview he cut in the ring, and where he just went off script, went into the Colt Cabana stuff.
Yeah.
And Punk played it like a professional, but it was like, are we going to do something about this? And as soon as it wasn't, I think he knew at that point how this was going to end. The brawl out happens. All of that goes on. The thing that was interesting for me was I didn't realize it looked like he had totally given up on it after that. Like he stuck around because the money was there. He wasn't going to get cut loose, whatever. But in his mind, he knew it wasn't going to work at that point. I probably should have seen that, but that was kind of a revelation to me. It doesn't surprise me that Tony Khan wouldn't step in. He's a guy who does not like confrontation. He doesn't.
He likes cocaine.
Well, they call him the snowman, but whatever.
No, there you go.
But the thing about it was I just enjoyed the fact that, again, I didn't think Punk worked us. I didn't think he was out there to ruin Tony Khan's life. I thought he was just being very honest about the situation, what he could talk about. To me, the most interesting thing that came out of that entire interview was when he, obviously the NDA stuff on the brawl out, when he was asked, did you get hurt in the ring or in the fight? And he just went,
kind of left that.
That
open.
was an interesting answer to me, because that might explain a hell of a lot about how all of that went with the lawyers and everything else. So I thought it was
Coach, that's a great point. But you know what also was telling to me? When he said that the wrestlers just want to wrestle their one day out of the 4 months and go home. And I was thinking about what kind of commitment, like if you're an AEW fan and you hear that. Now I understand these guys do their crazy stuff and whatever they do, but if you're a fan, that's what you don't want to hear. You don't want to see a bunch of millionaires work one day a week and go home and break glass because they don't want to go and perform in Canada. I was like, wow, how could you be a fan of any of those wrestlers in that organization if that's the way they think?
Well, that's why we have as much of a prime fan base as we do the company itself. It's hypocritical. The very things that they profess to love, they look the other way when one of their own doesn't abide by it. It's the same old crap. Mike, this was really interesting. I wanted to get your take on this because Coach mentioned this to me earlier in the week. When he talked about how Tony Khan was not made to be a boss in this sort of business, Coach pointed out, he goes, I wonder if that means that, and I'm paraphrasing you, Coach, I wonder if that means that CM Punk might have found a newfound respect for his time working for Vince with a comment like that. And how do you think that they would have gotten along if Vince hadn't, disappeared recently? Do you think that CM Punk has, a new appreciation perhaps for Vince McMahon?
That's a good question, Jimmy, but I will tell you, when Punk was asked about the allegations against Vince McMahon, Punk really, he didn't say anything bad, but he certainly didn't agree with, he basically said, hey, good riddance, Vince. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. But that follows with Punk. I wouldn't say Punk and I align ideologically or politically.
Right.
You can tell that. He wears that on his sleeve. I thought he was very honest. I love the fact that he started with the first reaction he had. Look, a PR person's going to tell you the first reaction is, oh my God, the victims believe everybody, this, that, or the other. Now, what Punk said was, my first reaction was, I can't believe he left this paper trail. Because that was my first reaction.
Right.
It was like, he's not this stupid.
Right.
We can get into the allegations all day long and what we believe and what we don't believe, but that was my first reaction too. He did go on and said a lot of the things you would expect him to say, but with Phil, I believe that he believes that. I don't believe anything he said was like toe the PR line, make sure of that. I thought it was interesting. He talked about the one time he saw Vince it was probably his funniest line of the interview, Mike. I know you saw it, was, where he talked about seeing him in the gym and he says, let's catch up. And then Ariel goes, did y'all catch up? And he goes, no, some things happened.
Right.
But I thought it was an excellent interview. Just in terms of, and you could tell he didn't want to peel back the curtain too far, but I never felt like he was working me. I felt like that was an honest interview.
That's a really good point. It's funny. Right after that, they had the Rhea Ripley interview,
Yes.
and I think what's his name, Ariel Amani. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but
Lonnie. Yeah.
he should not work scripted interviews because he was a mess, and because he knew this Becky Lynch thing was going to be set up, and it was so badly done by all three of them. It was like night and day. Jimmy, the CM Punk interview was lights out, unbelievable, one of the most fantastic interviews you'll ever see. And then the Rhea Ripley interview was equally one of the worst interviews you'd ever see.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, whether you're a fan of CM Punk or not, that is one of the most polarizing men that have ever worked in this business. CM Punk will never, ever lay an egg. He's CM Punk, one way or the other. And yeah, I'm a mark for CM Punk. I got you. Not as much a mark for Phil Brooks, but that's a whole different story. But Punk is a winner, period. And that includes his UFC career because basically he had the balls and the honesty to get in front of the WWE audience and go, "Hey, I tried. At least I tried." He addressed that. I gave it a shot. At least I had the balls to do that. You know what I mean? The guy's not afraid to look in the mirror. And he does bitch and complain a lot, but at least he's consistent about his agenda and what he wants to get across to the audience.
You know, it was all interesting. I'm curious your thoughts on this. It was interesting the bit where he talked about nobody contacted him. Nobody helped him, get his doctor stuff and all that. And the thing that I always come back to when people ask me my thoughts on AEW, it's like a television series that has this wonderful premise. They run the first season. It's a giant hit. And they're like, what the hell do we do now? That's what AEW is to me. They had this great idea. They went out and did it themselves. They did this all-in thing. It was great. They became an alternative. And they had no plan. And everything they've done is hotshot, reactive, no plan, no structure, no business organization. And now we're seeing the detriment of that. They literally hot-shotted it for as long as they could. They get Punk, they get Bryan, they get or Danielson, they get Cole. And
they got Mercedes Moné now. Oh,
but even
worst rating in years, Mike.
That didn't even last a night. At least the others, it lasted a night.
I gotta be honest with you guys. And Jimmy, I told you in studio when you were still here in New York, I'm like, when they got Paige, I'm like, that's a home run, and they failed. And then when I said to you, you got to sign Mercedes Moné. That will be the game changer. And boy, am I wrong. It's like, I'm going to tell you what. I realize the problem, Coach. You just said it. Jimmy said it. But here's the real problem. Wrestlers are bigger than life. Their wrestlers are not bigger than life. The closest they came was MJF, and that was it. They don't have those guys that you're like, I can't be Roman Reigns. I can't be John Cena. But you sure can be Adam Cole.
The funniest thing to me when AEW was doing their best work and was their most successful was when they were leaning into this idea of the four pillars. And I don't think outside of MJF, any of them are terribly special. I mean, Sammy can do some great flips, and Jungle Boy originally had a decent story, and Darby just likes getting the hell beat out of him. But they were guys that they were developing. They were telling a story, especially with MJF. And then it became WCW. Then it became TNA. Let's sign all the WWE guys and just throw them in and have these matches that don't make any damn sense. You bring Edge back over as Adam Copeland. You got him on live TV with Christian Cage in 3 weeks. That should have been a 6-month build to a huge match.
Yep. Everything's instant gratification over there.
They're hot-shotting it.
And I hate to say it like this, Jimmy. I told you this too before. You can't build your organization around Japanese wrestlers. It doesn't work. You can't. They have to be an American wrestler. You cannot, it's good to throw them in there and they could be the filler, but they cannot be, here's Takeshita, Takeshita, whatever the fuck his name is. Yeah. It's like, let's bring him in here.